I'm going to talk to the owner of the company here, Paul Levine, and he's going to talk a little bit about how he got started in this business and his specialty, which is properly fitting bicyclists so that they could get the right bike for them. I was referred to Paul from my coach, Mike Norton, who tells me he grew up alongside Paul's knee when Paul was starting in his garage. Tell us how you got started in this business and a little bit about the philosophy that you've developed on bike fitting.
I was always a cyclist, and I was in the business of doing custom displays and manufacturing all around the Northeast. And I would travel, and I'd go to different bike shops, and I'd walk in and expect to be greeted like a friendly, but that wasn't the case. So you walk into a bike shop, and if you didn't know that secret handshake, you wouldn't get any respect, you wouldn't have any conversation, there was no welcoming feeling. And I'm thinking, I love to ride bikes, I love to visit shops, I like to talk product, I like to talk local cycling, but the shop itself wasn't inviting or willing to share with me. And I said, I've done this enough, I'm about to open up a shop to present to me as I wanted to be presented as a customer. So that was the driving force. It's a great business because it's a fun business to be in, but when you walk into a bike shop, you weren't getting a sense that it was enjoyable. And so that was the driving force, is to create something that I would want to visit.
So where was your first store?
First store was in Manhattan, and it wasn't a store. I rented a small space on the Upper East Side at a health facility called Asphalt Green. And I shared the space with a treadmill. It was that small. And I would have clients come to me there. I'd bring my size cycle, do the fitting, do the physical assessment, and then build the bikes at home and bring the bikes to them when the bike was done.
So your original philosophy always was fit the people and then build the bike for them.
Correct.
And how is it that you were so focused on fitting the bike? What in your background gave you that insight?
I knew that by looking at what was available for fit criteria, that it didn't make sense to me. At the time, if you wanted to know what fit you, you'd look at or read a book. We didn't have the internet back then. And you'd read books about the racers, whether it was Le Mans, and they say, okay, this was the chapter on his fit. And if you want to be fit and fast, you want to have your bike fit like Le Mans. And it just didn't make sense to me, because he chose great parents and I didn't, and I was never going to be a great cyclist. And so I wanted to figure out what's a great fit for me. And I rode with a group of guys, and some were coaches, some were doctors, and I would ask them, so when you look at a body on a bike, what do you see? What do you see as limiters? And what do you see as things that could be used as an advantage? And made them open up their eyes, because they were cyclists of, oh, this guy over here, he's not efficient because of that. So I spent time studying and researching of what is out there and what's the best way to put the body in space and bring the bike to them.
So over time, as you enhance that philosophy, what kinds of innovative kind of equipment and things did you have to kind of cobble together to be able to do what you do today?
Well, the size cycle existed by Serrata, and I was working part-time with CompuTrainer, because through my custom cabinets I was making a display for their trade show, and the CompuTrainer measures balance of left and right power, how efficient you are at pedaling circles. It gives you power, cadence, and other indicators of performance. And so I married the CompuTrainer to the size cycle, which is what you see now on all fit stations. So now you can make changes to the bike and see the biomechanical response to it. And that was one of the things I created. The other thing was the XY tool, which gives you the center of the handlebars relative to the center of the bottom bracket. Mm-hmm. The term stack and reach is very common now, but that was created off of the XY tool.
Okay. Now, is it true that Mike tells me the story that he was riding around New York and bumped into you on a ride or something, and he was like 12 years old, and you kind of took him under his wing, and he'd go over to your shop and you'd say, try this bike and try that bike? Is that a true story, or is that
I don't know. I'd let him try some bikes. He was 12 years old.
Yeah.
Right? And it was actually my garage. I started in my garage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's great. So one of the things I've learned today, we'll show a little bit about the equipment later on, but how these subtle changes make a huge difference in your power and your cadence and your comfortability. That was one thing, and Mike's been gracious enough to let me be referred into your shop here, because I know you get people from around the country and the world that come here, and you're one of the renowned fitters. So I thank you very much for giving me the time and fitting me today, and letting me know how important this is in terms of my goals and my ride.
Yeah, millimeters make a big difference on a bicycle. And it's not just the millimeter in an XY plane, there's a Z plane. So it's not just flat, it's three-dimensional. And so how you fit onto your bike makes a huge difference. And it's almost like trying to run with the wrong pair of shoes.
Yeah. And most of your customers are kind of like me, right? They're people who like to get on a bike and ride, and all shapes and sizes and ages.
Oh, totally. We're hobbyists.
Yeah.
We deal with very few racers. We do deal with some racing athletes, mostly triathletes. But most of our clients are hobbyists who want to just have a great time on a bike and feel comfortable and be able to, after the ride, go home and do something else rather than lay on the couch and recover all day.
Yeah. And then how long have you been here in Connecticut?
About 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate it. This is the size cycle. It's infinitely adjustable. It can be adjusted horizontally or vertically in the front and the rear end. So the idea is to put you in space and bring the components to you. You can change the crank arm length, the saddle pitch, the fore and aft, and we also have it hooked up directly to the ComfiTrainer. So it gives us your cadence, your power output, your left and right power, how they compare to each other, and how much power you're putting out every 15 degrees the pedal stroke. As we make changes to your body, we're able to see the feedback of what's happening on the screen. Some will be positive, some will be negative, but it gives us the flexibility to make adjustments and see how your body responds to change.